What was that?
Welcome back, everyone. We are here back with the North American Challengers League Spring 2023 kickoff. Woo. We just got done with our first game of our first show, and it was CLG Challengers taking over game number 1. We'll see if CLG Faith can bring it back. But until then, I think hold on. I need to put my hat on to make sure I can see. All right, let's see. I think I see something over there. Who's that down yonder? Man, my hat's making it a little hard to see. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun here, y'all. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. I've adapted the Who's That Academy player from last year, and we're gonna play Who's That down yonder, because I think I see some players down at the end of the street down there. We're gonna see what happens. So, as you all know, I've got some facts here about these players. I picked 4 players, 2 from each side. I've got some facts about these players. I'm not going to tell you who the player is, but I'm going to give you those facts. What you got, Magical? I don't know what you're talking about. This is my hat on the range, all right? On the range property. So, our first contestant, our first person down at the end of my street, I don't know what they're doing down here, but I got a guy here, all right? He is now North American resident status, all right? That's new. That's new. His first competitive team. It was in 2019, and, you know, it's been a little while. He started playing midway into the year last year in North America in 2022. He was also a huge supporter of his fellow town from whence he came. And he is also a Diana Hecarim, my favorite because it's a horse, and cane enjoyer. Who is that down yonder? Who could it possibly be? Oh, my hat's gone wild.
Pretty sure it's Kevy. Yeah. I mean, I had to think about it, like, who would have North American residency now, so that automatically eliminates, like, half the field, because a lot of them are already NA players before, so that's, like, Bajani, Saranok, and Kevy, and one of them's a jungler. Little easy, yeah.
Of his other, like, secondary ones, because if you said Evelyn, I would have been like, oh, yeah, that's Kevy.
Oh, yeah.
So it was that guy Kevy. Let's go ahead and bring up his picture. He looks almighty fine. It was Kevy from CLG Challengers. That's who's down yonder.
I like it.
It's the best picture I could find. All right, you know, it's struggling out there for pictures. All right, we got another guy down yonder. I don't know why there's 4 guys down at the end of my ranch.
That's weird.
Here. I know it's on the range.
Okay, I think I know who it is.
who could it possibly be? So let me get through my facts here. So this person, he is now also an NA resident. He began competitive on a team called Silver Crows. That's pretty edgy in 2016. First org affiliated team he's playing on here this year. It is a Xerath player, which I think that gives it away if only the picture didn't.
That's a little helpful.
Spent a decent amount of time in the collegiate system in North America. And if Kungus, Mr. Kungus, Rip Kungus, sorry, it would lose in a flex up before he even showed up to this guy. Who could it possibly be down at the end of my driveway?
Josh, do you want to say this one?
Over yonder.
Yeah, I believe we were talking about one of the most ripped players that we have in the Challengers system already, and they are still playing mid lane for us. That is where the Xerath character is typically played. This one's got to be Saranok, playing for Bay State previously. And now
I also like that he's also a Vel'Koz player too. Zoe's really infamous as well. I liked watching him play. I liked watching him play the Zoe back in the collegiate scene. So he's got a lot of fun champs he likes to play.
He's also, I couldn't give the one fact, he's Venezuelan. So it's actually awesome to see some representation.
Well, there's technically 2.
There is
technically, there is 2.
I was going to say there is. So it is our second person down yonder. CLG face Saranok in the mid lane. Couldn't tell by his picture. My God, those guns.
He would definitely beat Kungus. Watch out. He would definitely
New CLG jersey looks real good. Sorry, Kungus. So we got another player down yonder. We're getting our third player down yonder. All right, we got our third. All right, looking mysterious as always. So he spent 2 years on the team before he came to the team that he's on now. He was drafted in 2020 Scouting Grounds. He's Canadian. That's really far from me. It was a most valuable prospect runner-up last year. And his favorite animal is a lion. Who could it possibly be?
Is a lion.
It's a lion.
So he spent 2 years on his previous team. He was drafted in 2020 Scouting Grounds. He's Canadian.
So
He was an MVP runner-up last year at Academy, and his favorite animal is lion.
The biggest thing, I think the big one is we got to look at the people who were runners-up for the most valuable prospect that we had last year, which ended up going to Lucio. Congratulations to them, now in the LCS. But the biggest one that I think we were talking about last year was Hoppy, as somebody who was a major force in spring. While they didn't have quite as good of a summer, was still somebody that we thought deserved an opportunity to play at the next level.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that's a mighty good guess. Even though he looks shady down there at the end over yonder, it is CLG Challengers Copy in the mid lane. And that man, we talked about him a lot, but it's a nice little spot.
I know. I'm curious on this picture, too.
Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and see. Hey, look at that! See, he's got that's why I'll say he's a shaded character. He's got his hood up. He's got his mask on. You can't see his face. You see his eyeballs. All right. Hey, we gotta get a move on here. I got one more person down at the end of my driveway, down yonder. That I got to figure out who it is. My hat's falling off. The wind's starting to pick up. We got to figure it out. All right. So the last guy, hair's going wild. The wind's picking up. What'd I tell you? All right, so we got originally played on the 100 Next roster in 2020. He was also drafted in 2020, Scouting Grounds. He played in LCS multiple times. He's a Graves, Lilia, and Lee Sin player.
Yep, definitely.
And he's also won Academy regular season one time. Who's that down yonder?
Josh, your turn to say first.
It's the boy Bobby J. Coming through,
Bobby J.
Bobby J.
What?
That's what they call him.
It's not Bobby J.
It's not Bobby J.
It's not. But we got a wrong answer. I got him.
Oh crap!
I got him.
Yeah. It's NXI.
Oh crap! I forgot that.
He also said Graves, Lilia, and Lee Sin.
Yeah. That gives it a little bit. I mean, unless Jenkins really expanded his champion pool.
Yeah, but he's not known for those characters.
It is Lilia a little bit.
All right,
yeah.
it is
a little bit.
It is CLG face in XI. So let's go ahead and bring his beautiful picture up there. Beautiful face. It is. It's him with the bandana on. Yeah, it should have been. It should have been. Well, y'all.
I'm surprised you didn't get that, Josh. I thought you had that.
Well, y'all, that was a long time, but NXI was on the FlyQuest for 2 years before they took a break.
He was. So he was drafted by FlyQuest in the 2020 Scouting Grounds. Also won MVP of Scouting Grounds, by the way. I'm sorry, I lost my accent. So yeah, one regular season in 2021 as well. So. Good stuff there. Well, that's it for the down yonder. I gotta go make sure these guys are well fed and get them some sweet tea. So I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna pop my hat off.
Can you get me some sweet tea while you're gone? I want some sweet tea.
Honestly, I've been searching for sweet tea in LA since I got here, and I cannot find any that is like home. So maybe you can help me find that. But Magical Yoshi, no.
You should go to Raising Cane's. They've got some pretty good sweet tea.
It's okay.
All right.
Compared to like,
got the sugar.
I've been to Atlanta and I've had actual sweet tea before. It's okay.
You've had actual sweet tea. Is it branded? Is it called actual sweet tea?
Like I went to a place that made homemade sweet tea and it was good.
I see. Well, guys, that was all fun and good. We got to see who's that down yonder. Get to learn about these players a little bit more. Kevy, Serenok, Copy, and XI. But now we got to talk and set up the next game of the series because we did have CLG Challengers coming out smashing in the end of that game. Came out with some very interesting drafts. Obviously, a big priority on the Caitlyn. Meech and Breezy popping off. Jungle was looking good. Kevy is back in form, it feels like. Joshi, give me a little bit of breakdown for CLG Faith on how they can approach this next game.
I mean, the big thing is I think they need to find something where they can actually like really fight, right? While Ziggs and Jin are characters that can nullify a lot of the strengths that Caitlyn Lux actually bring to the table early on, they don't often win it, right? You need a lot more setup from the jungle in order to win with that bottom lane. And I think giving NXI, the guy who I failed to recognize, a little bit more agency, a little bit more opportunities to make his own plays, give him something like that Lee Sin, it'll make their game a lot stronger across the board. They just need to empower the right players to actually do things for their team.
Are we going to get the Serenok Xerath magical?
I mean, that one's always just dependent on what your opponent plays.
I'm down.
Because I feel like you don't really want to play it into Syndra. You don't really want to play it into Rise that much. So
You can play it into Rise.
You can,
okay.
but it's also Compy's Rise, and so that's like, not really sure if you want to play it into that. Like, I would expect that if we see bans on Syndra and Rise, we'll see. Not necessarily it's going to be a primary pick, but it will rise in probability.
So I do want to take a second, though, and zoom into this jungle matchup a little bit more, especially since we're going to the second iteration of it. We've kind of lauded NXI in terms of his mechanical ability and what he has brought to the table before, right? And this is another entrance into the scene here for him. And seeing that first game, what are some questions left that you really want to see at least prioritized for NXI, or at least maybe some picks prioritized for him here at Magical?
I mean, I'm kind of with Josh. I think that get him something that's going to impact the lanes a little bit more early. Like, if they can do that, make sure some of these lanes are set up. Like, Serenok did really well on his own against Compy.
He did, yeah.
That's fine, but providing maybe some relief for bot lane, say that kind of play happens again, now you have something that can actually back him up a bit more. Make sure that you're, like that Lee Sin you were talking about. I think that Lee Sin actually is something that would be really fun to watch, especially against a Sejuani. Have much better clear speed to be able to outpace the Sejuani for the first few levels and make plays right out of the gate.
They've given themselves blue side as well for the Faith side of the map, and I think that Wukong is also something that they banned last time, but don't necessarily have to ban in this game if they want to try and give NXI a little bit more control in that regard. But the one thing I did have a little bit of a question for NXI, right? He was half the time really good in setting things up and being in the right place in order to find some of these picks, but some of the jungle pathing oftentimes put himself on the wrong side of the map in order to actually try and contest some of the objectives, and that's the one thing that I want to see them do a little bit better. It's a small criticism for a provisional team that is coming in their first game of the series against their sister team, who is supposed to be a stronger team, but it is something that I think NXI can have a little bit more effect in doing so, and playing with his lanes a little bit better, just like we've been talking about. Give them the opportunity, give them the tools necessary to actually win some of these lanes against what are supposed to be stronger opponents.
And does top lane at all have any influence to that? I mean, we had a lot of back and forths in that lane, but I think we all know that Cassante ended up getting a little bit more successful at the top side of the map. Do you see any differences up there?
I think Bajani is a fantastic collegiate player, but I think that's a situation where it was a big fish in a bit of a small pond, and going up against Jenkins, who has been one of the best top laners we've had in previous years in Academy, and even in 2022 was still, you know, a top half top laner. I think it's a really tough challenge in order to get Bajani to step up and actually make that happen. But if it does, I think if anything, it'll have to come from NXI really giving Bajani a lot of resources.
I also think maybe just put him on something he's a little bit more comfortable on. Because he's sure he can play the tanks, but usually he's more known, especially in the collegiate scene, for more of the bruisers, playing more things like Camille. So maybe try to see if you can set up a draft where that's going to be a viable pick to go into Jenkins.
I could definitely see something like that happening. I guess I do want to give you a minute to maybe go on a soapbox here, Magical. What do you think about the Jhin support? Are we getting the sketch pluck spot lane again?
The Ziggs was fine as long as you know you have a more proactive jungler, but I didn't see anything coming in from that Jhin support. Sorry, Summer. It wasn't for
okay. Sometimes
it's okay. Well, hey, maybe they pick up for a second game in a row. We get some more downtime with it. But we do have champ select ready to go, so let's go ahead and sit it off for a second game of our first series.
Thank you so much, Lennon. We'll see you again after the game to really dissect this whole series. As we talked about, it is going to be swapping of sides, so the banners aren't necessarily appropriate at the moment, but you can see the players are on the right sides, and we'd still get that Wukong ban. First from CLG Faith, and the Kindred being the first ban from Challengers.
Yeah, I mean, the Kindred still makes sense for Challengers, right? Kindred has been something that NXI has historically been very strong at, and, Pioshik now in the region. There's definitely a little bit more strong Kindred players to deal with, but the Caitlyn ban also coming through. Feels as though CLG Faith are trying to set themselves up for a very different draft. I'm expecting a lot of characters that were in Game 1 to not show up in Game 2, and as we've been saying, we want to give NXI a lot of power. We want to give Sketch and Plex some of the tools necessary to at least fight Meech and Breezy and fight for advantage instead of just fighting for a draw, because I don't think that's how CLG Faith is likely to win games up against CLG Challengers.
And interesting bans here too. The Rise banned by challengers themselves, not wanting to give that over to Serenok. Well, of course, Lucian is an expected ban, but usually that's a red side ban since you can pick that first. With Maokai still on the table, having Syndra available for either side. So really, it will be dependent on what they'd rather have. Do they want to grab Maokai for NXI? Something that can be a little bit proactive, but more so is about the team fights and trying to get up to level 6 to help the rest of the team out then. Or do they want to get Serenok back onto something comfortable like that Syndra?
Yeah, I like how challengers have actually positioned this draft because you are guaranteed Karma's another one. You had Karma, you had Syndra, you had Maokai, who are all characters who were dominating metas over in LPL and Korea. And now, I mean, with the Karma going over to Plux, this is an opportunity for CLG Challengers to pick up both of these super powerful picks. It's a lot of magic damage coming out relatively early, but you have a ton of pick potential, you have a front line, you have some scaling later on into the game, and now I feel as though CLG Faith have given CLG Challengers almost everything they wanted, and instead of the Syndra, they have to pick up the Varus, which has been the other pick once the Caitlyn has been banned.
I was about to say, Varus is a pick I've been seeing a lot lately, especially in the ban phase. It's been Lucian and Varus, I think the two most banned marksmen. Caitlyn right behind them. Zeri up in the equation as well. And that's also a good takeaway when you have something like Karma, because that is a very deadly lane to have to deal with, Varus and Karma. But here, now we get Sketch going on to Jhin, so unless we somehow have Serenok maybe going for Karma or Bajani going for Karma, and then we get the Jhin support again.
Unlikely.
I'm the crazy person. Even I'm saying that's not likely. So I'm expecting that's going to be a Sketch Jhin. They got the bot lane. Again, still powerful with one another. A lot of poke that they can provide, early game success. But here, with Syndra still available, does Serenok grab that or NXI get the jungle? Will be NXI going on to Xin Zhao, something that, if you look back to when he played in the LCS, was one of his best performing champs.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the characters that they have played the most in their competitive career thus far, and the Xin Zhao is something where you can affect the lane, you can make your own plays, and I love this coming through from the CLG Faith roster so far. We ask that they get a bottom lane that can fight for advantage. Jhin Karma always fights for advantage in the bottom lane. You're looking to get plays, you're looking to get kills. You have the Xin Zhao, which enables NXI to do a lot of powerful things. And while CLG Challengers aren't going to be slacking on their side of the board, it feels as though CLG Faith have a much more cohesive, instead of like a, ooh, ha ha ha, look at my Ziggs counterpick to your Caitlyn. Instead, they're going to be going for like, ah ha ha, I'm going to catch you and I'm going to kill you, which is exactly how I would have done to play the first game.
And with the Xin Zhao as well, something that can be more impactful early into the game, can look for some of these ganks. Plus, it's going to be perfectly fine farming it out if necessary. I do like this adaptation by CLG Faith. As we get into the second part of the bans, Renekton, the first one taken away. So Bajani not going to have that opportunity to play more of an aggressive style in the top lane. Like I said, I'm really looking to see what we end up getting banned towards Jenkins. Even with the Syndra ban, denying that from Copy to take that instantly on his rotation, I'm still more focused on what Jenkins wants to take into Bajani, if he's going to take it now or if he's going to take it last.
Yeah. There's still a lot of opportunities, right? Because both solo lanes on both teams haven't been picked, CLG Challengers are positioning themselves to guarantee a counter pick, and the Xerath ban comes through. I feel like that is just saying, like, we're going to be giving Jenkins the counter pick here, because if you only ban Xerath if you're worried that it's going to get counterpicked into whatever you play mid lane.
And that's what I said too. I was looking at Xerath being a possibility if Ryze and Syndra were both taken off. It raised the probability. It seems that challengers didn't even want to go with that probability, go against the odds, and just took it out of the team fight that they'd have to face off against. Though, okay, Cassante could be the pick for Jenkins, with that Fiora being the final ban, taking that away from his hands. And yeah, going back onto Cassante, daring Bajani to go back onto Ornn.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where if it's not broken, don't fix it. And the Cassante coming through, like, you can play the Gnar into it, but it is a very tough situation. Like, if Cassante, with all the mobility that they have, can get on top of Gnar at the right time, you absolutely have kill pressure, especially at level 6. And so, Bajani...
Jax would be better.
I mean, I think Jax is just broken. So, like,
yeah. I would have liked the Jax, too. Just because he is pretty busted right now.
Yeah. But It is Bajani going on to something that they are definitely a lot more comfortable on. This matchup is not the easiest thing in the world. You really need to get that Trinity Force up. You really need to get the movement speed coming out of the Gnar before you can really go toe-to-toe with Jenkins on this Cassandra. The first couple levels are not bad, but it changes quite a bit later on. And this is that big opportunity, right? You were saying the Karma might not be going over to Plux. It looks like it's going to Seradoc, and they're getting a hard counter pick in the bottom lane.
Hey, you know, it's not once in a while, I'm big brain, right? Once in a while, I'll find these predictions where I'm like, you know, they could do this. And
oh my God, Silas.
The Karma was more...
forget.
And then Silas. Yep, copy Silas. Oof. Okay, that's going to be a rough one to deal with, especially once you get a couple levels for copy. Even though Serenok on Karma, fairly safe lane as long as you're just looking to farm and not fight against copy. But you better bet that copy's going to look for those engages.
Yeah, I feel as though we were setting things up for CLG Faith to be in a situation where they say, we're going to go for these kind of wacky fights. We're going to go for these big opportunities to take these 50-50s so that we can win them. I don't feel as though they're entirely mechanically outclassed by CLG Challengers, whereas CLG Challengers were going to play a little bit more safely. But look at this composition. You have 4 melee characters and a Varus to set the rest of them up, and CLG Faith responding basically in kind. This is going to be one brawly game coming through, and we'll see if the challengers also have the mechanics to just absolutely take care of the entire day.
I'll pitch this right now, because if you actually look at how Faith have drafted, it's not necessarily the tankiest roster. So maybe Meech can go for Prowler's Claw, Lethality, Varus to be right there with the rest of the team.
True. I mean, it's definitely something that has become a lot more popular as we get into game 4, our second game of the day. Remember, CLG Faith are now playing to draw, which means they have to win this game, whereas the challengers, they're also just looking to win it. Even if they lose this, it's still going to be an opportunity where they go 1 for 1. But, as we said at the beginning of the day, if Faith takes a single game off of challengers, that's a big win organizationally for these guys, right? It gives them a lot of confidence saying that if we can beat one of the teams that has been a top performer in spring and summer with what a lot of people are regarding as an upgrade in the mid lane, then we can take down a lot of the other fixed teams.
I'm a little disappointed. No shenaniganeries this game. Not even attempted by CLG Faith. Just going for the line of scrimmage, making sure they have everything set up at the moment. I'm curious to see, at least with your opinion, what kind of plays I'm expecting it will be NXI looking for the first play.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, where would be the best avenue to try to make that play happen?
So, naturally, I mean, this Leona has been a fantastic counterpick into Nautilus for a long time because they do very similar things, but Leona does more damage and is tankier and has a longer range engage than Nautilus. So in many ways, it's kind of a better version of the character. And I think that's going to be one of the main places for NXI to really start creating a little bit of chaos for their team. And you see them starting on the top side of the map. They're naturally going to be in the bottom side as soon as these teams really have opportunities to go head-to-head.
All right, we're gonna have to keep our eyes on that. Looking at the pathing as well from these junglers, since Devi did get a lot of assistance from Jenkins at red buff. We'll be matching at least the sides that NXI will be, so could counteract that gank we were just talking about in the bot lane. And I'm almost curious to see whether or not NXI goes for that kind of play into the bot lane first, or maybe just go for the mid lane, punish copy right out of the gates and make it that much harder for Silas to do much, though Serenok's getting a good advantage against them.
I mean, the first couple of levels are very difficult for Silas in this side, but that's one of the spots where we can say, hey, if copy is good enough, maybe he can actually turn that around and it won't matter. But there's a couple of levels come in across the board. It looks like NXI going to be committing to farming out all the different camps, and now Flux and Sketch, they're going to be crashing things, and if they can fully get this wave to crash instead of allowing Meech and Breezy to freeze it, they're perfectly going to be setting up NXI to come down for a gank.
I'll say it's also really exciting. I just did a quick stat on my other monitor.
Quick stat.
And Plux, his most played champion, is Leona, with 17 wins and 11 losses on it. So this is a champion he is more than comfortable playing, especially into a Nautilus, like you talked about, being a good, I'd say pseudo counter, because while they do very similar things, so it does depend on some of the skill with that champion.
Yeah. I mean, we will definitely see. I definitely think Flux is a player that has opportunities to look fairly good as we see a little bit more damage. Remember that for Faith, they lost one of their players fairly recently, and that means that Sketch is shifting over. That's one of the big reasons like these guys have played together in the past, but it's also them kind of saying, yeah, we think having Sketch roll swap back and putting Plux in is going to be better than a lot of the 80 carries that we could have picked up at least immediately. And so, now look at this. NXI already going to be looking to fight for this crab and is perfectly setting themselves up for a potential fight in the bottom lane because Meech and Breezy didn't get that freeze off.
No, not quite. Should be broken pretty soon, and Sketch and Plux will crash that minion wave at least relatively soon. This leaves NXI with some time to kill. Not really going to be able to visit that bot lane, at least for the moment, so that's why we see him pathing up towards the top side of the map, maybe contesting that second Scuttle Crab against Kevy, who's been power farming up a storm. NXI, you noticed that Jenkins was rotating down, did not even want to go for the skirmish.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a 2v3 for the crab. The first strike on the Magpie is always fun, but Breezy is posturing to fight. Not going to actually be able to find anything, I mean, that is one cost of actually going for the cheater recall that we saw that Bajani did in the top side. You will not have the same kind of priority for a fight coming up after that. So, it means that Bajani, while they do have the boots in order to improve their lane state, is not able to help for the crab. Instead, is going to allow Heavy to pick that one up. Whoa.
Okay, a little bit of a skirmish between the two. Johnny face checking that, missing the wallop. Jenkins getting control and going to crash another minion wave, especially there as he went mini at the perfect time for Jenkins to look for that fight. Without a flash, he has that ghost. Doesn't want to go for the dive until he has all out available.
I'm going to be honest. I think that walking into that bush there was a big oversight coming in from Bajani, right? That must have been them expecting that Jenkins had already gone for the back, but Jenkins doesn't have anything to buy just quite yet. They're getting close to level 6, and Jenkins should hit it a couple of minions faster because Bajani would have lost a minion or two while they were off the map and actually going for their back and getting these boots. That's the trade-off, and now Jenkins has Bajani low enough to actually try and affect the dive.
And this is just great to see the evolution of Jenkins. Last year, he was kind of in the conversation of someone who was struggling. He lost a lot of confidence when he was dropped down from the LCS to Academy over the spring to summer split. And now to see him immediately into the spring split of 2023, it's like, I am going to be a lane dominant player. I have played plenty of Cassante now. I know the ins and outs of this new champion, and I will be the bully I once was.
Yeah, also, I kind of forgot to ask earlier in the day, we have some great observers with us today as well. I know we have Mermage and D-Flight. Who's our observer today? Are you Mermage? Was a nod? Maybe a zoom?
Well, we'll see. We'll
see.
Maybe we can get a ping in Discord about that. It's right now, Johnny looking for the fight against Jenkins, who's low on health, and now he's got mini. He could actually probably chase this one. He's got the damage, the flash in, the boomerang. Not enough, though. Jenkins with that shield was plenty safe underneath his turret.
Yeah, oh, that was really close. Jenkins barely out of range for the all-out, and definitely would have been able to win
I think he wants to look for this. He was ready to fight, and that's the thing with all-out is you actually have that Omni Vamp now available when you pop that ult. So you can look for those trades, especially if you don't have to worry about getting locked down and CC'd by Gnar for, what's it, 16 seconds initially?
Yeah, you got the 15 seconds of being the Mega. Oh, for the all-out? Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
No. The cooldown between when you go Mega to Mini.
Oh, yeah, Mega to Mini, you have 15 seconds.
Okay, 15. I couldn't remember if it was 15 or 16.
Look at this. Faith is also turning some things on their head. Remember how we were praising CLG Challengers for their control over the bottom side, but CLG Faith not willing to pull the trigger on the Dragon, not willing to pull the trigger on the dive. A little bit gun-shy so far. They should definitely be the team being more aggressive, but now top lane.
Bajani's looking like he's going to be in a world of hurt. Thankfully for him, he was Mega, so he was able to jump out of that one. Gonna be fine. Copy. Oh, no. They're setting up a dive. He's mini. They know it. They've got Copy grabbing it, but missing the Abscond of Duck means that Bajani will be safe.
I mean, we know Copy was going to be one of the players that was going to come swinging, right? That's one of the big things that we're working on in 2022. We know that's continuing to be a thing. They got a chip on their shoulder. I should have been in LCS this split, but I'm a little bit surprised that they're the only person who has been so aggressive.
Bajani! They're just like, you will die, Bajani. We swear you will die.
Yeah. And there it is. Again, Copy just going in with the flash, using the Gnar into the wall. Copy has been one of the big playmakers already.
Okay, a bit of a skirmish in the bot lane. getting a lot of damage onto both Breezy and Meech.
Oh.
But that's going to be a Drench line. He's level 6, though. Sketch is going to be dangerous. Got to be careful. Flashing away. Does he open up the curtain call? Look for the snipes onto Meech. As Meech looks for his own piercing arrow, there's going to be the curtain call. Going to be body blocked. 1, 2, 3, and 4! Sketch counts up.
There you go. Sketch coming through. They're playing for
Oh,
a
they're not
They're going
done.
for a dive.
There. Oh, but Plex, he's taking the turret way too long. Oh, no! Meech! He gets them both!
Wait, how did Pluck start taking turret at the very beginning of that? I didn't even know. Was
He
that
used
no
ult.
minions?
It was his, no, it was his solar flare.
True.
He used that, but Sketch wasn't quite in range to get those auto attacks off.
I love the idea. I love the idea going for the dive. Unfortunately, just a little bit too close. But now Jenkins a little bit in no man's land.
No, he's got support. Look at that. Breezy and Kevy nearby. Adixai taking so much damage initially. Even with aggressive strike, it's not going to be enough. He's melted down. Serenok, Bijani, the two base state warriors trying to fight back against CLG. Nice Nor onto 2. Kevy's low, but he flashes in. Bijani's down, but they got the snipe on the other side. They've taken one, and now can they get another? As Plux has got to be careful. He's tanky, but how tanky? Solar Flare stolen away by Copy, getting the kill. And Serenok's able to get the root onto Copy, and the kill with the Mantra Inner Flame. Jenkins running away. Auto attack. There it is. Double kill for Serenok.
Dude, the way that Serenok positioned that fight was absolutely crazy. Constantly staying on the edge, never taking more damage than he needed to. It was just a supportive role, but it ends up being the difference. And of course, going back to the bottom side, Meech and Breezy were winning this 2v2. Breezy sees an opportunity to go for a Sketch, but the great cleanse on the Ignite instantly coming out means that there's no value there. That Q might have been enough to kill if the Ignite had ticked, but the way that we're just seeing CLG Faith come alive has been big. And of course, Meech hits level 6 in the middle of that fight, means that he can root them underneath the turret, and I love the target selection, knowing he doesn't need to do anything further to kill Flux and turning immediately to actually kill Sketch.
Exactly. Like I said, it was the Solar Flare connecting that got the turret aggro. Now we go to this mid lane fight that happened nearly instantly afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm very impressed with the way that Serenok was constantly staying here on the edge, making sure that there was no real threat. I was impressed by the challengers making sure that they didn't all get hit by the Gnar ultimate, but the way that Serenok, I mean, realistically takes basically no damage, doesn't even need to use summoner spells.
He's just staying all right outside. Yeah. He's playing the artillery mage, but as Karma.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly kind of looks like the way an AD carry would play, right? Just making sure you are max range, getting your autos off, and giving you as much time as possible to dodge everything. Serenok was a big player in that last fight and kept everybody else in the fight much longer than they otherwise would have.
Let's bring up the conversation of Collegiate back in 2022, where we saw Bay State go all the way to the finals, taking down teams like USCI, like St. Louis University, teams that people expected to beat Bay State. A lot of their success was off the back of Serenok and how he played. He played out of his mind in so many of those games. That's why I mentioned his Zoe during that time was nearly unstoppable. His Ari, too, was godlike.
Yeah, and putting them into someone like Copy, we weren't expecting Serenok to have this strong of a game or this strong of a series, right? They looked pretty decent on the Syndra. They have been looking good so far on the Karma, and it can give so much more pressure to us.
Oh, poor Bashani. He's just not getting any luck. He's not getting any luck in this top lane. They're just saying, Bajani, you will die every single time we want to kill you. Your Mega Gnar is going to do nothing unless you're joining up with your teammates. This blocks in this bot lane, getting the stun on Breezy. But he'll be fine. He's got a lot of distance to make up where he can get out of there. There was nothing set up by Meech and Breezy to turn the tides onto Flux.
Ooh, also a Tiamat sketch. Right? Big
Isn't that kind of like we see from ADC Jins nowadays?
You can see this. You can see Crit. You can also see like Lethality. Like I've been seeing all of them in different games. The value of the Tiamat version is once you actually upgrade it to the Hydra, pressing Q on the wave basically instantly clears it. Right? So you get a ton of extra wave clear there. But going back into the rest of the game, I was not convinced by the Gnar for this exact reason. It is very difficult to defend up against all of these diving champions. But I also wasn't super excited about the Karma, and Serenok's been like, yeah, I mean, if you play it right, it doesn't matter what character you play, you have so much extra power in there. Up 2 kills, up CS in the bottom lane. Now they need to corral the rest of the team and make sure that they can enable everybody else to jump in front of them so they can do what they did in the last fight.
I will say for Bajani, even though Gnar is tied for 3rd place amongst 4 different other champions as his most played, it is one of his lowest win rates. He's 4-9 on this, but you got to put that on pause because here's a little bit of a fight getting the flash out of NXI. And NXI has kind of been unsung in this whole game. Oh, he dodged the burn for Demonic Embrace is enough to get him. But look at Serenok this whole time. His Battle Mage this time. No artillery. He was taking up a lot of damage, but they've got Plux. They've got Sketch. The flash coming in from each, looking to get that shutdown off Serenok, so he's not going to be useful as the rest of Challengers clean up.
Yeah, NXI just getting a little bit caught there, and I mean, CLG Challengers, they don't need to do anything super mechanically impressive. They just have more friends in the right place. They take them down, they crash this Herald into the mid lane, and the big winners coming out of this, 1, Meech getting a couple kills there, 2, Copy also getting the kill, and these plays coming through, a massive infusion of gold coming over to the 2 primary damage carries coming out from CLG Challengers, and I'm excited that CLG Faith were trying to make things happen in this game. Unfortunately, now we're seeing kind of the difference of the experience coming through. The fights have just been more coordinated coming out from Challengers, and it starts with just NXI getting picked.
NXI having taken the year off last year, you can see a little bit of the rust still there. Last game, he was in the right place most of the time, but this game has not been one of his cleaner ones.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? You have had opportunities. You do have to go for broke a little bit, but the big problem here is, look at this. Sketch getting sandwiched now. Bajani also getting sandwiched.
Oh, this just looks like the pop die mechanics over and over again, looking for Bajani at every moment. He got mini just now. He's got no cooldown to get Mega, so they can easily kill him.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes when you play Gnar and you are targeted correctly, and so now we'll see what the rest of CLG Faith can do on the rest of the map. They're trying to get this turret, but Sketch is not going to be able to take it, and you can already see there are bounties coming through for the side of CLG Faith. This one is getting pretty close to over. The one thing I'm going to be looking at in particular to really kind of come back into it is if Sketch starts getting a couple of kills or NXI gets a couple of big fights, maybe they'll have an opportunity to really bring things back, but until then, we're looking at a 9,000 gold lead already coming out for CLG Challengers. It's going to be very difficult for Faith to do much.
Especially now, as it's only 15.5 minutes in, they're looking for another fight. They got the TP in here. Bajani's nowhere to be seen. It's a 4v5 fight. They've got the pick onto Plux on the other side, so he should be melted down by Copy. NXI running for the hills, but Jenkins is on the hunt. Crescent Strike to knock him away. At least 3 of the members will survive, but they had to sacrifice their support.
Yeah. I mean, again, this game looks worse coming out from CLG Faith, but I actually like it more than what we saw in Game 1, right? The way that they were going for things. Yeah, Sketch and Plux screwed up the dive in the bottom side, but they went for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, NXI got cut out, but it's because he was trying to take a situation that he thought was a 50-50, and unfortunately his bottom lane just got sandwiched on the way there. So there's a lot of different things that they're going for, and as a team that needs to pick up wins in order to try and avoid the relegation at the end of the split, this is the way to learn fast. You just go for all these skill checks, whereas the CLG Challengers, on the other hand, they don't really have anything to lose, right? They want to make sure that they're better, and yeah, you are playing for seeding at the end of the season, but this is the first series, right? You are just trying to find your footing a little bit better, and Copy in particular has been their big focus.
Leave him alone, guys. Just leave him alone. He wants to farm. That's all. Is that so bad? Is that so much to ask for, Josh?
Apparently, I mean, and rough for Bajani. At least they're doing okay farming, but Breezy and Copy are even out here. So Faith just going to be pulled around. And so I kind of want to go back again, right, to players that we are looking at for the rest of this season. And somebody that we have been really looking at for the past year and even longer than that in Copy, right? This has been a huge invigoration, I feel, for CLG. Triple was a player that we always looked at, and I think you in particular were showing us different places where we were looking for spots where they could have done a little bit more. Who would you rather be? Would you rather be someone, or would you rather be Triple? And typically, there's Triple because they have so many opportunities.
Hold on. We got a bad play going on for Faith in the mid lane, or is it? They got the kill like heavy, and now they got the TV from Bajani. He's Mega as well. He's got a good amount of timer with Jenkins caught out of position. Nard ult into the wall.
Nice.
Here's the curtain call, but Copy's on top of him. He missed it, but it doesn't damn matter. He's got way too much damage. So the rest of Challengers challenge Faith yet again. Challenge their own Faith. Looking for the fight. Copy 1v3, flashing away. Still alive, baby. You can't kill him, and he goes right back in onto Plux, onto NXI, who looks to kill, but he cannot do it. CLG Challengers, they get the fight. 10,000 gold in their pockets. They are well ahead and looking to win this game quickly.
Yeah, Copy's got the cojones on this game, right? Just going in 1v3, staying alive. Yeah, the flash output is just so you can get the abilities coming right back up every single time. We've seen Johan have an opportunity to look for a big play. They are trying to make it happen. Still streaking off a little bit of the off-season rust, but the way that they are going for it gives me a lot of excitement for this player. Absolutely showing that they need to have an opportunity to play in the LCS. Now, it starts off a little bit funky, right? Jenkins and the rest of the team goes underneath the turret. They think that they can do this easily, but Sketch with a great flash does mean that they are able to put a lot of damage down, and with the root under the turret, there's not a whole lot left for KV to do. But after this, when the fight starts splitting up, yet again, Johnny is very excited, but a great unstoppable from Jenkins means that they get out, and Copy from there, even though he misses the stun, is so good. He is so strong. He walks in 1v3 looking for the perfect Gnar ult, but he's just buying time. He's making sure that the rest of the team can actually catch up.
Also, I'll make an argument that he was expecting for Sketch to stop the curtain call, and you're trying to predict where he
it's
attacked
also
right
really
afterwards.
weird hitbox too. Like when Jin does that, like he looks like his feet are down there, but they're actually a little bit farther up. I can forgive him for that one.
Yeah, especially because he got the kill, right? It's like, he still killed him in the end. It doesn't matter. It was a good fight for CLG Challengers. Now, with such a gargantuan lead, not even 20 minutes into the game, they look for this pick onto Breezy. What damage can they do? They can't really do anything, and Flux himself, he is not very tanky anymore in this game. He's getting shredded. Copy on the other side. That time, it lands, and he bounces around Plux with the stolen ult so they can get the kill. He will give his life, though, for a support.
It's still Copy trying to make all these big plays, but the rest of CLG seems a little bit gun-shy, maybe on a different page.
They got the flash, the pull in with the dredge line. NXI taking a lot of damage. The flash away from Meech. Good flash to get away, and guess who's here? It's Jenkins' turn with the flank. Looking for the kill onto Sketch. Bounced around by Kevy, and it should be Meech taking him out with 2 kills. They've got 3, and they're looking for the final one in Serenok as he runs away the wrong way from the team.
And at the same time, we're seeing Jenkins going up the mid lane, trying to take the middle inhibitor turret. I mean, we've already ballooned this game so far, right? 13,000 gold. CLG continuously just looking for plays, trying to find all of these fights. They're already up in objectives as well. Faith are just doing everything they can to try and stop the bleeding somewhere. But when CLG Challengers are not giving them an opportunity to do it, it's so difficult to try and find some of this gold back.
Especially when you look at where the gold is allocated and how they have a 3,000 gold lead top lane, 3,000 gold lead in the jungle, 3,000 gold lead in mid lane, 3,000 in bot lane. It is brutal for Faith. At this point, I don't think it matters how many Hail Mary plays they have. It's not looking likely that they're going to be able to bounce back in this game.
Yeah. Now, Bajani going to be trying to defend this, but doesn't know that Copy is there. That's a slow.
Yeah, it's a slow, but he was able to bounce out. He was fine that time around, saying, you know what, I'm just playing as cautiously as I can. 0-6, he's got to be... They know that it's too easy for challengers now to kill Bajani so quickly. But all it is going to be rotations around the map. They don't necessarily need these kills anymore. They just got to make sure they're fencing in CLG Faith.
Yeah, look at this. You start to see Sketch and NXI trying to make a play for this top lane turret, but just walking into the fog of war means that they do have to back away. Minions shouldn't be able to take this turret, and at the same time, with everybody on the top side, Kevy left all alone on the dragon. Like, CLG Challengers just playing the map that much better. So, all the minions can do it.
Okay.
Oh, well done. Getting a little bit of gold back.
Yeah, a little bit, but they also lost a 3rd dragon straight, and they're now at Infernal Soul points.
Yeah.
Right, Faith, I'm just wondering what kind of faith they've got left in this game. Whether or not they can beat their sister team in the Challengers. Especially when you look at the items and you look who's got what. 2.5 items for Jenkins with only the 1 and some components for Bajani. Devi about the same. Copy now about the same, even though Serenok has a slightly cheaper build with the Radiant Virtue and the Chemtech Putrifier. It's not really helping out, and with a fight happening in the jungle, their own jungle, Plux just taking so much damage so quickly. He's already at 25% health, pulled back in, killed by Kevy. The bounce around on an NXI, he can't do anything. The challengers are so far ahead, they're just hitting him with the wallet at this point. They don't need to land anything. They can just walk up and kill them no matter what.
Yeah, super tough, and now with the Reptile coming into the mid lane, it will be stopped, but they're still losing everything else. The Baron is going to be going down, Copy is wailing away at this top lane turret, and this win is, again, more important for CLG Faith to try and take up than it would have been for the Challengers, right? It's firmly going to the Challengers, but Faith wanted to pick up a win here, one, for some pride, but two, to try and avoid future relegations. And now, with this game basically all but over, I'm trying to figure out, because in terms of like expectations for these teams and things that we were looking for over the course of the season, this is pretty close to how I feel a lot of our challenger versus provisional teams are going to end up going, right? There's generally going to be a very large difference between a lot of them just because of the resources they're getting.
That, as well as the, like we talked about, it's the whole identity of why you draft a fixed team compared to the provisional. Of course, I would like to see some upsets, and I do like what we've seen from Faith, especially early into this game, like you talked about. The fact they're looking for these plays, the fact that they're trying, even if they don't necessarily work, that is the big thing. Is you can always learn more with the game and teach someone additional aspects, but getting them that killer instinct is hard, because some people just are going to be a little bit more passive than others, and I just like to see that from Sketch and Plux. Even if we know Sketch is destined for the supportive role, it is great signs of things to come.
Oh, curtain call.
Curtain call stolen away. That actually does a lot of damage this time around, even though Plux was with his shield. They've taken down the bot lane inhibitor, and they're looking to see if they can chunk down this Nexus turret quickly. There's not really much that the Faith can do. They're so far behind in gold. Copy was able to solo out the inhibitor turret in mid lane. They're just fishing. They're fishing for a pick, looking for what they can get just so they can end the game. They're going to have 2 waves of minions crashing into these Nexus turrets, and this game should be over, especially with that Nature's Grass getting 2, 3, 4 members, but nobody wanted to follow up. Instead, they're just looking for the game. They just want to end it. Now they can pull that trigger because they got the kills, they got the fight, and they've got the damage to take down the Faith. And the CLG Challengers, as expected for quite some time since the 15-minute mark, will be your victors in the second game of the best of 2, going with a clean sweep against their sister team right out of the gates.
Good stuff coming out from Challengers as they do close it down. Honestly, as we said, this was kind of expected, right? CLG Challengers were definitely the big brother coming into this series. They were going to be having a lot more opportunity to showcase the amount of experience that they have and really showcase that a team that has already been strong before Copy is now even stronger.
It really is strong. Like, that team looks fantastic. They're looking like how CLG Academy looked back in last spring as the #1 dominant team of this time Challengers League. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them be that team that looks to get that #1 seed, especially going into playoffs.
Well, I mean, we had Dokla before. It was a really big player for them. Jenkins coming back in. Copy is going to be replacing Triple. I do think this is a team that can go deep. They're all seeming to play on form right now. They're all looking for plays. They're consistently finding opportunities to build themselves up across the board. But we have to see, this was against their sister team. This was against CLG Faith, a provisional team. This is their first game. It's a good sign, but we have to temper our expectations a little bit because they will have to play a lot of the other challenger teams going forward.
And I feel like it's only appropriate to really dissect this game, again, with our flex/host/guest, whatever you want to call him. It's Bizel. Welcome back in. Give us your thoughts on how Game 2 in this series.
Hello. Well, you know, I think, as you guys said, and it was repeated a lot, that it kind of went as expected, right? I mean, these teams are obviously kind of intertwined together with the 3 teams being represented by CLG this time around in League of Legends as a whole, but especially at this developmental level, this should happen, right? There's a reason why the players are on the Challengers roster, and I think seeing some of the little gives and the takeaways that CLG Faith can have from this one, especially seeing things from Serenok, looking even at Bejani in the top side of and some of those team fights, and especially the second game earlier on, while the second half of the game in the second one probably isn't anything you can dissect from, there's a lot of positives, I feel like, from this one, Magical.
I do. I like me and Josh were talking about. There were good aspects from CLG Faith. Obviously, they got to clean a lot of that up going forward. Serenok performed very well on that Karma and lane phase, especially against someone like Copy. It's very impressive to see from this collegiate player that not everyone had the highest expectations of. And so the fact that he looked really good in both games, was able to contend against Copy so well, maybe we'll have to keep our eyes on Faith with how they build around Serenok as opposed to just NXI, because NXI was someone we went into this series expecting great things from, and he did really good in Game 1. Game 2, it just felt a lot more absent.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of fell off pretty early on as a Xin Zhao, not able to affect any early game plays. But as you were kind of talking about, right, I do want to give props to Serenok and NXI. I think this is an opportunity for them to kind of build around this mid-jungle duo. Serenok has been playing a little bit more supportive, and then you just give NXI something like the Lee Sin, something like the Xin Zhao that they can be very aggressive on. Seems like a formula for success for them going forward. But of course, it's going to take a little while for them to get everybody back up and going. They're still looking for a new bottom laner to join them in, over Sketch, who will be returning to the support role when they do. And I think that will really allow us to take a look at where CLG Faith can go.
Agreed. And I think, obviously, time will tell. This is only the first series, especially. But I got to turn eyes over to my friend Meech, who went unkilled in that last game. Special shout outs to you, as it's actually really cool to see, again, just that continuation of growth from Meech and Breezy, and we'll continue to see that as we continue to see them play. But we do have a small little break before we do get to our interview, so we'll be right back and hopefully getting to speak with one of the CLG Challengers members.